Good morning, everybody. My name is Ebon Ethos, and welcome back to Warframe in a Nutshell. We're going to be talking about Frost, most accurately, well, Frost Prime, but still Frost, and then also the Glaxion, because it kind of matches his icy nature. So, Frost is a kind of unique Warframe. A lot of people probably know him as the Warframe that is most heavily used in defense and excavation missions. So what you see here is his abilities are Freeze is his first one, which is a little bit of a damage, has a little bit of an area damage as well. That's a frigid blast that frees enemies in their tracks, so we'll kind of showcase that here. As you can see, frozen solid. So, kind of a neat little skill there. On top of that, we also have Ice Wave, which sends a wave of razor-sharp crystallized ice towards the target. It's kind of an interesting one. It's not used as often by most players, but it's also very still useful. And it leaves behind a temporary frozen track. Now, most people know about his third ability, which gives a snow globe effect. The snow globe, of course, it knocks enemies back when it's first used. Turned them to snow. See? So the snow globes are kind of one of those really cool skills, but if you try to place one down in the same place that another one is, the first one vanishes. Additionally, you can also destroy snow globes by using his first ability on them, which I'll showcase here in a second. I can just go, and it apparently wipes them out. I did not know that. Apparently it also does a super big AoE explosion when that happens and deals damage and knocks enemies away. Good to know. Alright, so then we have one final skill, his fourth ability, his ultimate ability, Avalanche. Now, Avalanche does some really cool stuff. It summons a landslide of ice and instantly freezes and shatters enemies, so it gives an armor reduction of 40%. So, kind of a cool skill in and of itself. But altogether, Frost is more well known for his defensive abilities rather than his offensive skills. For example, and I'll showcase this here, Frost has 300 base armor. 300. So for an economy build, you would run him, most people run him with like either rejuvenation or even physique for a little extra health. I, of course, will run him with rejuvenation myself for the little bit of support that it grants. In his Vizarin, which was the first one I would go to because these two polarities are for Vizarin, I would do steel fiber and armored agility. But of course, we're going for something that's a little bit more, gentle, more of something that people would have, so we go steel fiber and vitality. On top of that, you could do instead Gladiator Aegeus, if you wanted to do more armor, give him just ridiculous amounts of armor like some people do have. And then you could also do Gladiator's Resolve, and you could do, where is it? Where'd he go? Vitality at the same time, giving him a good chunk of defensibility, which I will showcase in a little bit. But for now, I'll just take those two off. Then you have your Dash Polarity, or Naramon, that you will use. A lot of people would run him with either Equilibrium, or run him Flow for the extra energy. You can also run things like Natural Talent, which actually improves his casting skill, which is very, very useful. Now, if you're looking for just some effective skill changes, give him some Streamline, give him some Stretch if you have it. which you should. Apparently Augur Reach is an... Oh, there it is, Augur Reach. Give him some more range on that, and some more duration. The duration helps keep people frozen longer. He's not a big person on power strength, but he definitely is a big person on continuity. So again, more duration, efficiency, and range is important for him. If you have some open slots, which I do because I have, again, a reactor in all my frames, you can run him with either Hunter Adrenaline, or you can run him with, Rage. Hunter, Adrenaline, or Rage for some extra energy generation. Or you can give, of course, one of his many augments, which the two that I have is Chilling Globe, which enemies that enter the globe has a 50% chance to become frozen, and then Freezing Force, which gives me a buff to my allies that I can apply. Otherwise, you can always give him Intensify and watch and say it's good. This is a basic, simple build for him, with the Glaxon being something that needs a little bit something more than that. Technically, I could go cryo route there. So, Galaxion is a beam weapon. It has one kind of interesting thing about it is you can actually put multi-shot on it, which is kind of cool. But there's actually a mod that I wish I could find. It should be in here somewhere. Maybe not anymore. Maybe they don't have it anymore. That's kind of sad. So instead, since it's a status-based weapon, you want to run for status-based effects. Of course, multi-shot is always going to give you more stat. Well, apparently not this time. So you have to find something that gives status. High voltage, for example, or malignant force. But of course, most people don't have those because they are mods that you get from, well, high voltage you get is a rare mod that you can get from transmutation, or you can get it from Barokatir as of this week, the next couple days. Malignant force, of course, comes from the void, which also would give it corrosive damage on top of whatever else it has. So really kind of hard to make an economy build for this particular weapon. I suppose if I had to choose something, I would drop, of course, Serration on it. There's not a whole lot of mods in Madarai, or Vizarin. Naramon has a few more, so maybe put Stormbringer on there for some magnetic, or do that for viral. Or if you're really lucky, you can throw both of those on there and give it cold damage as well as that corrosive. Throw on some vigilante armaments for extra multi-shot, or just do fast hands for the reloading speed because it kind of needs a bit of that. So that's kind of be your economy build for this, is going to be these three, because you want corrosive damage on everything you run. So we're going to showcase now what it's going to cause to enemies at level 30. Should be pretty easy. So, as you can see, it dealt a little damage to him, but he's completely frozen. Did a pretty good amount. But now that this has been modded, it's just crushing through those guys. So we'll get back up here. And we'll unpause the AI, bring these enemies up to level 60. Get out from crouch, because crouch is annoying. And simulate. With the build that I showcased, as you can see, he takes very little damage. And by doing that, they instantly become frozen. That guy got knocked off. I don't know where... Wait, did both of them? No. There he goes. So with the build that I gave you, level 60 enemies will still also have problems. But again, remember the Glaxon is mostly a single target beam weapon. Now if I charge myself back up here, go back in there against the level 60s. A really good way for Frost to kind of avoid having to deal with enemies, is just freezing them solid with his fourth ability and then killing them with whatever his primary or secondary or melee weapons are. So that, in a nutshell, is what Frost can do. Now, I'm going to show you, of course, his augments, because those are important, and also tell you where you can get him. So we'll go ahead and we'll drop out of the Simmerchrome and head off. So, I believe Cephalon Suda, but I'm usually wrong, so we'll have to see. I'm not. So Freezing Force, of course, which is in Cephalon Suda, gives you 100% cold damage to attacks for 40 seconds. That is all dependent. That amount of that it actually grants is dependent on your power strength, as it is with Ember. So it's one of those things you have to be very careful about. If you're going to build him for this, for being a buffer, as they call it, you might as well just run yourself with a lot of power strength. And then you have Isolated Impedance, which actually leaves a frozen trail that slows enemies that come in contact with it, which is kind of useful. Chilling Globe, which I've already showcased. Then Icy Avalanche, which grants allies within the radius a coat of ice that absorbs 60 damage per enemy hit. That gets up there pretty good if you have a good concentration of enemies, especially like enemies. So we've kind of talked about his augments, we've talked about his abilities, what we normally mod for. Again, it's armor, health, trying to be a little bit defensible. As with most Warframes, if you're starting to get really good with him, maybe you want to run him with pure power or something along those lines. Now, you get him from Ceres. So anyone who's curious about where you get Frost, you get him from Ceres. Ceres being right over here, next to Mars. It'll be the planet you get to after Mars. And on Ceres, you want to go to Exta, and fighting Lieutenant Lich Krill and Captain Vor. It is one of the most hands down annoying fights in the world, because you have to Lieutenant Lich Krill, you have to destroy the battery packs on it, the steam or heat pack on his back before you actually can kill him. Captain Vor is pretty easy. You have to kill him like 3 times and he dies permanently. But Lich Krill always gives people problems, because if you damage him too much when you're fighting him, he becomes invulnerable and you can't damage anything. It's all about hitting his back in just the right way. Most people run with a shotgun or some AoE damage. It tends to do the job for you. But once again, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed watching this quick, in a nutshell, of Frost, Frost Prime. If you liked it, please like, comment, or subscribe. If you didn't like it, comment and tell me why. I always like to know where I can get better. So until next time, everybody, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and thank you so much for watching.